I have like this network thing. So okay, like I have. Mm, do you know what synesthesia is?
Synesthesia, I know. Ability to see music, right? That thing.
Yeah, yes, and this can be more general. Like you just sort of you have some sensory stimulus together with something like on top of the usual stimulus that you would have. Like for some people, they can see they strongly associate like numbers with colors and so on,
Okay.
and sometimes this enables them to sort of multiply much larger numbers in their head and so on because they can just sort of look at the color and then they can sort of regenerate the number from just the way that the colors
Okay.
work
Okay.
and different things like this and sort of with and you, correct with music and so on. And I don't really know whether sort of my version of that counts, but I also have like something like this where I always see like, you know, whenever I'm thinking about concepts, I'm seeing like in the background, or when I focus on it, then I can sort of go directly there, like some sort of graph structure, so like some network structure, and it has some properties. I can't directly say like, okay, this node is maybe about this idea or this concept. It's difficult to sort of pin down. I just know that this is sort of generally like I just see some region of sort of structure about it mentally, and I can sort of like, and I'm sort of guided by this often,
Yeah, yeah,
where
yeah.
I'm like sort of I have different feelings about it. Like sometimes it feels like it's sort of covered in honey or something like this. Sometimes it feels rusty. Sometimes it's like very flexible and elegant and so on. And I can like I have sort of developed this sort of perception about how this is supposed to feel. For me to sort of go on with something. Like, have I thought about this enough? Is it time to return to that thought? I'm sort of guided by sort of partially this, and I think I've sort of over time developed this to sort of be a more, more accurate or more reliable guide of sort of my intuition about it.
So,
So what this ended up in is I generate new ideas sort of every once in a while, and they sort of are added into the bigger network that I already have, and sometimes this triggers the return to a previous idea and sort of a new connection. And sometimes, like, this process can have multiple steps that sort of go deeper. Like sometimes the reaction will just be, okay, I'm adding a new part. Sometimes it will be, I'm adding a new part, and this means that I'm sort of updating another part as well, and I'm establishing a particular connection about it. Sometimes it means I need to reorder multiple things in this graph. So like now this concept seems too far outside of like these other ones, so I need to sort of move it somehow closer. But it's connected to these things over here, so I need to sort of overall shift it so that these things now sort of fit together and I don't feel this sense of tension in the concepts that I have. And yeah, this
also, is there this the ripple thing? It happens with like when you add a new concept to that network, it like creates a ripple of it, and everything else get kind of modified to align to that thing. When we add new concept to a network, or when we realize new concept and a new link between two concepts, we have not seen that, but when we see that, okay, this is linked like this, and we can add a new thing in between, and then it kind of create a ripple. I also have this thing completely relatable. That is why I created that DSW in that format, in that graphical format. Before this, I have created Feynman diagram for latent method. That is also like a graphical format, because I did not know the name of this thing, but I have the same thing. And I also like has taken it to extreme level. I used to close my eyes and think like this in air, taking out things from here, and adding like this, waving my hands in air, like Sherlock Holmes kind of thing. So I also do this a lot, and this is how I also think. But what I do in this, and as I said, after an year of doing all this thing, when it is all too much like build up in my mind, it is kind of getting too much for me to handle, or too much to remember, or too much to process. Then I just take them out on a paper or somewhere else, so that I don't have to keep them in mind. When I have to refer to them, I can just go to the and see that. So this is all, and this is why I just put them out in the most closest form in which I have thought about them or actually saw them. Like this is what I actually say to my friends to everyone, that I cannot see this thing. If I'm studying anything, I need to see it. If I cannot see it, I do not understand it. And when I say see it, I literally mean to see it. I need to see the links or the whole picture, how it is coming together, why it is coming together, and going to the fundamental of links of why, the first why that there should be, from which this all thing is cascading. So it happens with me as well. But what I do in the end is like, again, try my best to make this into some form of language or some human understandable format in the end. And it's the most difficult part. Thinking is the easier part, because I have written a quote also. I guess my thoughts are faster than my language, or my language is slower than my thoughts. So to convert them into language or to some parts in which other humans can also understand and take something out of them is the hardest part. But again, I just spill in the form that is most easiest for me. That's why the DSW that you will read, it all means the same thing, but I have written it in a complete different form, in the language that I can see at that moment. The most fundamental or the most iconic thing is the drawing that I have made. That links. I can understand everything from the links only. I don't even need to read the DSW to understand my DSW. Same goes for my previous project as well. I don't need to read things like words and language. I don't need to go into that for my thoughts to work. They can work independent in some graphical or image format basically. So it happens with me also a lot. That's why I guess we are reaching to the same conclusions in the end, and the thoughts are converging because the way of thinking is same. Kind of same.
I think there are probably still some differences. So the way that I hear you describing it, it's more like when I say a graph structure, I sort of mean a mathematical graph in the sense that it's really it is a network of sort of connections. And if I see like shapes, then like that's a more rare thing, and it's because like some sort of pattern of activation goes through the network and it draws a shape by like how it activates things, and then I can see, oh, like there's some triangulation or whatever, like these things are connected in, like I need to shift those two closer together because the distance between those two is supposed to be the same thing as
it automatically pulls
the first thing and so on. But it's more like I don't see like I don't see shapes sort of that often, or I just sort of get some intuition when something is out of place. But usually I always just see the network, and like the network just feels differently, and there are different regions of the network that are denser or less dense and so on. I have sort of worked a lot with like mental imagery though, but it's not like the synesthesia thing is really about like just having this network always present, like some subsection of my overall network, and I can sort of alternatively like feel into my understanding about something like conceptual work. I can sort of consult this structure, but I do think there's sort of many similarities as you're describing. Like another thing that I have, like this is I think a bit of an abstraction from the sort of network thing, is like a sort of mental garden where I often have the sense that like I just sort of go there and I plant ideas there sometimes, and it's not about like if you want a plant to grow, like you don't sort of pull it out of the earth by sort of trying to make it taller, right? You're sort of trying to create the right conditions for growth to occur. And so this has been a useful sort of mental model for me to just sort of think about development of ideas sometimes. I don't really need to do all of the thinking all the time. Like I don't need to sort of go through everything. Sometimes it's just about bringing ideas into the right environment, into the right conditions for them to sort of develop. And then sometimes I will sort of consult the sort of network structure to sort of have a good intuition of sort of when to revisit those ideas. And then like when I think about the ideas then I can then I have more associations. Like I can really feel like, okay, like I have things to work with now. They sort of come to me. They sort of it's sort of conceptually rich now. And so sometimes I will just sort of wait some time instead of thinking about it immediately. Even if someone tells me a new idea, I sort of have some sense of, okay, when do I want to do something with that? In terms of writing stuff down, I have like this list on my phone where it's like
oh, that's too much. Yeah, Google Keep, same with me also. First I write in Google Keep and then I transport it to some other format.
I generally feel like I do pretty well in talking with other people about my ideas. Sort of depends a little bit on the idea being somewhat developed already. But writing them down is a struggle for me. It gets extremely boring for me.
Yeah, totally relatable. I can understand. But again, it's part of the being human and playing the game and social animal kind of thing that we need to convert our thoughts to language. That's the point of language in the first place, and that's why I use images a lot whenever I talk. And with respect to this other thing that you talked about, planting things, so I see it as a different way. It's like if I need some conclusions or if I need some intuition in some things, I have also thought about this and read about it. It's all like what we call subconscious thinking. People have called this thing, that I just leave a thought, and like if I'm working in some kind of evolutionary kind of way, some evolution theories and all, and some quantum mechanics theories, then I'll just read those things randomly, anything from anywhere, and then by somehow or by some chance or randomly also, or when I'm just thinking about evolution and let's say quantum mechanics at the same time, then two things will automatically suddenly they will snap, and when they will snap they will create a kind of environment, or what we're calling environment I call like objects that are required for that thing to properly settle down in the network, and then it will suddenly snap back to the network, the original question or the original problem that I had, the seed, whatever you're saying, and then it will suddenly snap back to the network, and it will again that create that ripple effect, and then everything else will also get updated or will get new, deeper, or more insightful, or more clear, or more developed. So that this happens with me. All of this has happened with me, but it's just that I have used different ways, and the ending of all of this is usually writing down or expressing them in some or other form, because I have to push myself very hard to express, like to write them down or to make some graphical thing or something. But in the end, I feel like that's the profession part of my passion, or like that's the responsibility part of the power to express it in some power, express it in some or other way. But I did not know the name.
And I really don't mind the talking anywhere near as much as the writing down. Writing down is also actually fine for me if it's like a chat with someone else, like even if it's just email exchanges with like long discussion threads or something like this. I can do this as well if it's sort of if it's like a creative experience to sort of express it to this person, then it's more interesting rather than just sort of
writing from the first person. Yeah, I know. But it is not very formal and not very because also what I also did, it's like the easier way to do this thing. I also tried to do this thing initially because half of the pressure from my mind or our mind get reduced, that we just don't have to also think what to think and also tell what to think. We just have to do one part. They will ask and we will tell. It's like interview benefit. But the problem with this, what I've noticed, is we are only able to express what not what we actually want to express, but what the other person or the one who we are talking to wants to know. We are limited by their will or their understanding or their needs, not by, we are not guided or forced by our own curiosity or our own wantingness to express whatever we have in our mind. That's why I stopped this thing. And whenever I do this thing, like whenever I talk and all, I use that as well, but majorly I try to focus on writing or expressing from my own will or from my own ability or from my own level, not to be dependent on someone else, how much they want to know or how much they can bring things out of me. That's because I don't want to work as per someone else, that kind of thing. That will limit the things I can express out. It's like I have thought of 10 things, but they might only want to hear about 6 things, so the other 4 things will get lost because they might even not come to that level, or our talk might not even tend in that direction because that might be a node of some far distance yet. So but that is important for me, or that is important for the whole network or for the whole concept. So it will get wasted. I don't want to waste that thought, so that's why I write down. Anyhow,
I sort of noticed the difference. I think maybe it's also a cultural thing. You're talking very quickly, and you sort of seem to also sort of think very quickly through things. And I'm adjusting my tempo to you in how we talk, and I don't dislike it. It's efficient, and like I also get to a higher tempo when I'm excited about speaking about something and so on. But especially if you sort of want to share, like my experiences with some people, if I sort of slow down, I often get more control over like what will be interesting to them to sort of for me to share. Like I can package things differently. I can sort of dedicate extra time to like influencing their level of interest in different aspects of what I'm interested in saying, just by adjusting sort of my rhythm of speech and so on. Like there are different aspects to this where like my experience generally has been that I have sort of some control over the thing that you're talking about. And I really, this sort of puts the responsibility on me to sort of judge what is appropriate for the other person right now. But there's certainly some freedom in deciding like how they will understand ideas, and therefore which subsection of possible ideas right now they might.
I cannot do it myself. I know that very well, but I have seen other people doing it very well, and that's why they are more engaging, talking about the same topic that I can talk about more efficiently than them. But they are not prioritizing efficiency, they are prioritizing like message conveyance or communication amount. but I am prioritizing efficiency, how much more, and also because till date I only watch videos at 2x speed. Anything slow I cannot watch, so by default my speed it is at 2x. I have to always reduce it to 1x or 1.5x.